here we are. Thank you for waiting, and thank you to my guests for joining. I really need to time that music better to the intro timer. That was terrible. It was totally anticlimactic. Anyways, welcome everyone. I see people are still joining in, so we'll take it slow, but we get there. I'm your host, Christian. Welcome to everything you always wanted to know about ServiceNow, but we're afraid to ask. I hope that everyone kind of gets that reference. It's very old. Matt, do you get that reference?
I do get that reference. Yes.
There you go. Perfect. All right. With that and without further ado, let me introduce today's topic and my guest at this time. We want to talk about some CMDB and CSDM stuff today, but we will be doing that a little bit differently than normal because Matt is not a ServiceNow person per se. If you want to introduce yourself to the audience, Matt.
Yeah, thank you, Christian. So my background, like you say, is not in ServiceNow or IT service management, and certainly not CMDBs. My background is more in, I spent most of my career in the world of credit and fraud risk in banking. And then about 7 years ago, I moved into kind of digital visualization, 3D visualization. So I've been in that for about 7 years now. Originally, I have a music degree, so I'm not kind of technically trained, I'm creatively trained. And 3D visualization is just the thing that I really love doing.
And that's what we're going to talk about today, 3D visualization. So you're an artist at heart, is that what you're saying?
That's right. I'm one of those, there are many of us, failed ones who are never recognized. I'm one of those guys.
Ooh, failed ones. No, that's mean. All right. So let's talk about CMDB and the problem with that, right? Lots of people know that the CMDB is at the heart of every IT service management, but not only IT service management. If we go back to talking about risk management, assets, all these related topics, they're building onto a stable CMDB, essentially a configuration management database, and the data within that, right? And that's one of the reasons why the ServiceNow platform has the CMDB as a core capability rather than a capability that is somewhere attached to a specific module, right? Yeah. And I remember always when I've been doing this for a long time, right? Like 16 something years. The CMDB was always the issue. Either having too much data or not enough data, or just data in the wrong format, or in wrong like structures or quality, and thus impacting all the processes that we're basically building upon them. And whether you use the data graveyard kind of terminology that probably you have heard about, or if you go with, I used to say, fix your barn. You wouldn't put your hay into a barn with a leaky roof, right? It's kind of the similar picture. And you probably have encountered something like that as well. Or how does an artist come to fixing CMDBs?
Well, so it's interesting. We were first brought to this by a mid-tier bank in the UK, and the CTO had said to us, we'd like a visualization of our tech stack that we can all look around and discover on a screen, a bit something like Minecraft or Minority Report, depending on what is your métier. But
we said both references.
So we said, what we'll need to do is we need to know where is the golden record, because we don't draw pictures, we visualize what is there. And we were told that we should look in this tool called ServiceNow with this thing called a CMDB. So we went to speak to the ServiceNow team, and when we told them that we were going to visualize the tech stack of the bank using their CMDB, they just laughed at us and they said, look, if you visualize what's in here, you are not going to get an accurate view of the bank. And our initial response was like, why are you so bad at your job? Why is your CMDB not a good? We didn't know this, right? And they said, oh no, this happened every service now, and everyone trying to build this a CMDB has this problem, and it's because of a number of things. So the two that they particularly listed were We hadn't communicated well with the security team, so we didn't have the right credentials for the mid server, so we weren't discovering things correctly. They also talked about they'd had a lot of CIs have been manually entered over a period of 3 to 5 years, and they had no idea what was still there and what wasn't. So those were their particular problems. But since that, speaking to lots of ServiceNow customers, we've heard of lots of things that cause, number one, the CMDB not to be as healthy, the data not to be as healthy as it should be. Number two, for it not to be maintained as well as it should be. And number three, not to be aligned to CSDM well. So
the CSDM came in basically only later, right? A lot of CMDBs also grew over time.
Yeah.
And it was just like, oh, we need a place to put our stuff.
Yeah.
And from my experience, also, we need a place to put all our stuff, regardless whether it's serving a process actually or not. So can we store all the live running processes of our Windows servers here? Sure you can.
Yeah.
But what do you do with that?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And what we found certain common elements, but the biggest column element that we've found that seems to make it difficult for people to have a really good functioning up-to-date CMDB that is now aligned with CSDM, the biggest issue is nearly always communication. So that could begin with a CMDB owner or a platform owner talking to someone senior in IT and just failing to get across to them what's possible, what could be done if we had an amazing CSDM aligned CMDB. And therefore they don't get the top cover and the authority. And therefore they don't get to build out the governance structures that they want to, because they're not given the authority to do so. Although I guess the experienced people on the call here will know you're already in trouble if that's the case.
You are very much so.
That's it. And the next thing is they want to speak to service owners or application owners about the CMDB because they need those people to steward their own data. And yet those people, particularly service owners, they're business people. They don't understand the CMDB. And when you show them these complex tables with hundreds of thousands or millions of records, they're like, I can't engage with that. So therefore they fail to get the support of the people around them that should help. So what we have found over time is CMDBs or CMDB projects don't fail because config managers are incompetent. They fail because competent people are unable to communicate to people who don't have that deep knowledge, and they're unable to communicate effectively with them, and therefore they don't get the structures and the support that they need. And this is not a solo effort. It will never be successful as a solo effort. It's only when those broader groups are brought in that it works. So we've seen that as the most common thing. So when we thought we could help, we thought, what could we do to help? We could, number one, help with that communication thing. 3D visualization is very helpful for assisting communication, letting people see things. We found that 3D visualization is always helpful if there are three circumstances in place. Number one, is the thing physical or not? If it's not physical, we're in a position to help with visualization. Number two, is it complex? And number three, is it big? If it's those three things, not physical, complex, and big, it's hard for us to hold it in our heads, and it's hard for us to hold it in our heads and communicate it into the heads of other people that don't understand it. And then a 3D visualization can add value. So we're looking to help with that communication, number one. Number two, just make it quicker and easier to see where the problems are, to see what needs to be done. And then number three, to give people a guided path towards CSDM alignment. Yeah. So that image that's in that kind of 40-page PDF that people are trying to hold in their heads and trying to configure their CMDB according to, we simply give them a route. Okay, wherever you are, now you should do this. After you've done that,
and you need to show that route later on. I mean, it's super important, because that is the two main reasons that I have encountered in the past that people run into is the communication skill, like you said. Everyone who's been trying to put their CMDB or their state of their CMDB into a slide that is management capable has experienced utter failure, right?
That's it. And everyone has their image, right? It's like a wardrobe, and CSDM is like the shelves that help you know what are shirts and what are
And
jumpers and what are jackets.
no one really can
Everyone's
still,
using all these images, right?
yeah,
Because they can't show the actual thing, because the actual thing doesn't bear seeing.
and then trying to layer your actual data into this picture is where it really becomes difficult, right? And I think that's where the ServiceNow CSDM comes in, but it is still a theoretical model where you're struggling to do exactly the transition that you just explained, right? Getting it from your brain into something that you can see. And everyone knows the CSDM picture with the different domains, and then here, and everyone's like, okay, that's cool, but how do I get my freaking data into this? And obviously, we all know the crawl, walk, run approaches, and how you can focus on certain objects, but it's still all very theoretical. And getting the transition from your data graveyard, to get back to that, where you potentially have all this data, you might actually not be in the worst shape that you are in, but you're just not capable of bringing that to someone who can actually use that, right? And there is 3 different dimensions that I usually think about when I approach this, right? You have the guy, the technician, the person who actually takes care of the technology. Oh, I'm sorry about that. Takes actually care of their technology. And you have on the other side the person who is responsible for the service that these things provide, like a service owner or some person like that. And then on the next level, you have a manager, like a CIO or someone like that. And these are 3 very distinct yet very different kind of necessities, what kind of visualization they need. And I understand that you have come up with a great solution to actually facilitate that. And I let you take a little bit from there. Tell us what it is, how it's built, and how it actually interacts on the ServiceNow platform before we then go ahead and actually share that.
Okay, I'll do that. So yeah, we've built this using gaming tech. We started off in Unity. We've recently replatformed to Three.js because Unity is a great gaming platform, but it is really built for gaming laptops. And if we wanted a lot of shadow and light, and we wanted it really to come alive for people, we needed it to be able to run faster. So we've replatformed to Three.js. Now it can run on a phone or an iPad or any kind of enterprise work laptop. So that's thing number 1. And it can deal with great volumes of data, etc., without causing any lagging. It's distributed from the store. So the code has been checked, security checked by the store. And then once an organization downloads it from the store, it runs in their instance, and nothing ever leaves the instance. Nothing, not even usage data. We get nothing. It just goes onto their instance and they run it there. And we were very lucky that early on, as we were thinking about how we visualize the CMDB, we met Mark Bodman. And for those of you who haven't met Mark Bodman, look him up. Everything he says is interesting. If you're a CMDB geek, that is. Everything he says is interesting.
Yes.
And he and Scott Lem and others came up with CSDM as the idea. And Mark, we were saying to Mark, what should we make a CMDB look like? We're going to make a 3D model. We can choose what it looks like. The thing we choose should add clarity. It should make people able to understand and so on. And he said, make it look like a CSDM. Make a 3D CSDM model and populate it with a client's data. So that crashing together that you talked about, Christian, the image with the actual CMDB, let's do it for them. So they see their own CMDB, their own CIs and records in that model. But there's another advantage to it. Because CSDM has standards, I can not only show what data you do have in your CMDB, I can show what things you should have, but you don't yet have. So I can look for things, and then I can draw your attention to what you don't have and should have. And then I can use crawl, walk, run, fly or other methodologies to help give you a route to filling out those things that you're missing that makes logical sense depending on the outcome you're looking to achieve.
Because crawl, walk, run, fly might not necessarily be the approach that you're taking. I had in one of the earlier episodes of this podcast a colleague of mine here in Switzerland, and he was like, F services, you don't need that. Like, no one needs that stuff, right? And it was an interesting take, and he had some valid points there, right? And if you're approaching the CSDM from this different angle, then the crawl, walk, one doesn't help you at all. Like, you're just running into a wall and you're not getting anywhere.
Well,
so you will have to show us how that actually works.
We see crawl, walk, run, fly simply as a grid. You could call it 1, 2, 3, 4. And we still use crawl, walk, run, fly, but we actually let you attach different things to it. So you could have crawl, walk, run, fly for SecOps. Or, I mean, you can stick with what comes out the box, which is crawl, walk, run, fly for CSDM alignment. But you could also have crawl, walk, run, fly for autonomous IT. What data do I need sorted in my CMDB for autonomous IT, and in what order should I carry out the tasks to get myself there? We just feel that crawl, walk, run, fly is a nice image, but actually it's just phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, phase 4.
At the end of the day, it is. But your solution that you have actually allows us to define these phases as we see fit, right? So that we are not boxed in by a predefined, because that's what I experienced with a couple of customers, that they felt like boxed in, like, hey, we don't have this. Why can't we not progress past it? And I was saying, like, these are more like guidelines in a very pirates kind of way, you know, just go with it. It's fine. As long as you get out of it what you want to achieve. Certainly there are foundation data. You always should get your foundation data straight, right? But don't feel obligated to, if you have data ready for a certain object type and you are taking value out of the fact that it's in the CMDB and that you're managing it there, bring it in there. Just don't think that you need to bring everything else in first. If you have it, good. And if you don't have it, and if you don't have that and the next stage, then you can take the crawl, walk, run, fly approach and start with what you don't have just yet at the beginning, right? That it's guidelines. So with that being said, you have a 3D visualization model, like they told you to do, of an actual CMDB based on the CSDM layout.
Yes, we do. We make anyone's CMDB look like the CSDM layout. And simply, if they haven't aligned it well to CSDM, there will be more red things than green things.
Red and green, right?
So we use red, amber, and green to depict what is good, healthy data and what isn't, etc. And you can just pick the level at which you feel you're at, how mature you are, be judged or judge yourself according to that level. So our tool isn't just for seeing your CMDB when it's lovely. Our tool is for helping you get your CMDB to the level that you want. And then when you are doing that and maintaining it, then you can see services and dependencies and all of those great things. But in the first place, we're assuming people don't have that stuff in place, and we're going to show them where they need to put a relationship in, and where they need to have a reference relationship, not a rel table relationship, or where they have something stale, or where an owner is missing, or a location is missing, or there are duplicates. All of those things we're going to show people, so they don't need to be a config management expert to understand it or to talk about it.
All right. Why don't we show people? Okay. I will switch to the presentation mode. In the meantime, I see there's a couple of people in the call or in the presentation. If you have questions, just drop them in chat. Don't feel like this is like a brain dump. I said that last time. We're doing a fireside chat experience here. So we are talking, but it is interactive. So if you have any questions, and when Matt is showing us his thing here in a moment, feel free to drop your questions, and then we see if we can accommodate that. All right, gonna switch over here. That should be that.
Cool. So what we're seeing here looks a little bit like the picture you talked about earlier, Christian, but of CSDM4 particularly. And I can show how we move on to CSDM5 and 5.1 a bit later on if that's helpful.
Yes,
but
do it.
This isn't just a picture like on the PDF. This is a real 3D model in an infinite 3D space, and we can zoom in and out just like on a computer game. And there are a couple of basic rules.
Before we go deeper,
yeah.
This is on the ServiceNow platform. This is it's like a module that I put into my ServiceNow.
Correct. We're in ServiceNow here.
Yeah, that's very important to notice.
So if I click on something, it's going to take me closer and reveal more information. That's rule number 1. And rule number 2 is red, amber, and green mean what they always mean. So if you want to know why something is not green, you just click on it and it will tell you. So let's take a look at technical services in the first place. This table is amber. I can see an assessment wheel here telling me there are 4 assessments. One of them is amber. So let's click on it and find why. We can see that we only have 63% of our services have owners attached to them. So if I open that up and get the detail, I can see, there are 62 technical services missing owners. All I need to do, because it's not green, is click on that. And when I click on it, that will show me these are my 62 services missing owners right here. And so this is real live CMDB data, yes. And if I want to see that in the list view in ServiceNow, I just click here, and that quickly takes me to the list view in ServiceNow. We can see my owned by column is empty. These are my 62 technical services that are missing owners. And then I can discover, look around them and see which they are, and then maybe look at one of them particularly. I know as I look at the assessment wheel why this is red, right? It's because owned by is not complete. Again, I can look for the form for this in ServiceNow. Here is the form, and we can see owned by the field empty. So it's very quick for someone to understand and find what is wrong. It isn't like just a health dashboard saying there is some red or there is some green. You can dive straight in the CSDM context, right? I know where I am still. I don't have hundreds of or tens of tabs open. I'm looking at the technical services table. I'm in the managed technical services domain of CSDM. I can see how the tables relate to each other whilst still looking at very, very granular data regarding one CI.
And if I were to fill in that particular form that we just opened, the ownership, it would live disappear from that view. I would need to refresh potentially or something.
No, you would need to refresh. Yeah.
But I wouldn't need to wait for some consolidation data run in the background, some new indexing or anything like that.
No new indexing. You would run the assessment on that table. It would take sort of between 1 and 3 seconds, and then you take a look at it. So it would need to run the assessment again to say, what have I got? What am I missing? Now that was quite obviously a made for demo example with a small table. Let's look at a more realistic size table. So here I have a servers table with 6 assessments, and there are 92,000 records here in this table. The 6 assessments tell me that I have issues with duplicate CIs, I have issues with serial numbers missing, and I have issues with locations missing. And now the thing is, for my kind of example, I'm thinking I don't run or manage 92,000 servers. I just manage the ASA servers. So what I'm interested in is the servers whose name contains the word ASA. So I'm going to run that filter over that table, and you'll see how fast when I press run now. It's that fast. And it found my 42 ASA servers from those 92,000. And actually, I don't have a problem with duplicate CIs. Although that table had a problem with duplicate CIs, for mine, the ASA servers, there are no duplicate CIs, but I do have issues with serial numbers missing and locations missing. And just like the technical services that were missing owners, I can open up and I can see my 42 ASA servers. Here they are. These are the things that I'm responsible for managing, and I can look at individuals, etc., like I could before. So I have this idea of this is my CMDB right here. That whole big model, that's someone's CMDB, but it's not mine. Mine is just this CMDB. And I'll show you in a moment how we save those views, and that this can become my default view, because this is actually all I care about, and I can deal with this.
So it's not only a tool that I can get some overview in the bigger context of CSDM. I could also use that as a particular class owner. So it would just help me keeping my data quality kind of in check and visualized for my little slice of that CMDB pie.
I have this little save view called ASA, and as you see from this flag, I can set it as my default view, and then this is what I would see every time when I came in to see my CMDB. It would be this that I would see. And these can be set up by individuals, but they can also be set up by an admin for roles as well. So we have this idea that we think of as my CMDB. My CMDB is just a part of it that I care about, and that may not be the same as yours. Okay. So those of you that know CMDB Health well will have noticed that there were only 4 assessments for technical services and 6 for servers. And that is not the complete set of assessments that we see in CMDB Health. So the reason for that is that we have attached every single assessment for CMDB Health and for CSDM maturity on every single table to a particular phase of maturity, which we talked about earlier. So actually, what I'm seeing here is my CMDB according to crawl phase. Now, I could move to walk phase, and I'm going to see a lot of things turn red, and then run and fly, and so on. So I guess there is a point to judging someone's CMDB as if they were at fly phase, but they're going to see a lot of red if they do so for most customers.
Well, it is for road mapping and such. It's actually a valid tool, right? So taking away, because that's how I look at things, right? I'm not an operator. I'm looking into solutioning and into project planning, and how do we get where we are? It's like coming up with a little bit of a gap kind of analysis, and that's great for this kind of purpose, actually.
Well, and maybe I need to talk to a broader team about how much we actually need to do here, and that's what some of our earliest clients have used it most effectively for in the first place, to say, look guys, do you realize how far we have to go? However, it's not all bad news just telling customers they have 1,000 data problems to solve. What we do with this is then we help them learn to take it back to the earliest phase, because really what they need to know is, what should I do next? I may have 1,000 things to do, but what should we do today? And what should we do this week? And then what should we do next week? So when we go back to the lowest phase foundation, we can see on this CMDB that there are 3 key problems. So let's have a look at them. We just click on the things that are not green. So I can see SDLC components, there are no records found. That tells me that we're probably not using the table. We probably are doing that intentionally. We could delete that actually from the visualization. But we do have 2 other issues. We have business applications that are red, and 1 click and I get to see why they're red. My required fields are not complete. So that's task number 1. And then I can see in my business units, I have an issue. Again, 1 click. I can see not all of my business units have companies assigned. So for this CMDB, there are 2 tasks that need to be done. They need to complete their required fields in business applications, and they need to assign companies to all of their business units. Then it will all be green. And once it's green, they simply have to click on the next phase, which in this case is crawl, and see what stops being green. Here we see it's in the managed technical services domain. It's what we've already seen in technical services and servers. And I can see there are a couple of issues here in application services. So these are my next tasks. And then when I've solved these will be green, and I'll go to walk and click on walk and see what stops being green. So it is this curated path, and it comes out the box with this curated path towards CSDM alignment that, as we said earlier, you can configure absolutely yourself, or a consultant can drop their IP into, and they can configure it for a client.
Right. So if they have their own model on how to realize value in the CMDB, they could put their model in there
Absolutely.
go there.
Let's say you're a healthcare company and you've bought into me as your consultant because I'm a healthcare ServiceNow guru. I actually have things that I think you should deal with first, and that's why you've employed me. I'm going to drop that knowledge into those preferences. So I'm going to build a path to maturity with you that everyone in your company can understand and follow according to my knowledge. So yeah.
Right. So Mr. Robinson here in chat just says he has actually seen your visualization. He's seen it a couple of times, and it's really cool. Are you actually using that, Andrew? That would be interesting. Just on the side, let's move on. I have a question here on this end. If you showing this visualization, and obviously I could make a screenshot, put it into some fancy schmancy PowerPoint slide and show that to a senior manager, be like, hey, see, this is all red, that's not good, right?
Yeah.
And working on the live data, we've seen we can go to the lists directly in the platform.
Yeah.
Do I have any sort of export capabilities in this thing?
No. So if you put a still from this into a PowerPoint slide, you would make me so sad.
I know, because it's not valid anymore in 5 minutes, right?
What I want you to do is open this up with your senior manager, walk them through it, let them understand, let them see, look, I'm expecting relationships between business applications and application services. We can see it on this line here. I'm expecting 390. We've got some work to do on relationships there because I only have 231 in place. Look at all the work we did over the last months on relationships between application services and applications.
And that's kind of the point what I'm getting at, right? I'm a consultant, right? I'm a solution architect, and at the end of the day, I need to show to my customers, and it's the same within companies as well, right? If you are responsible, if you are in a certain config manager role, you're like, okay, what have you done in the last 15 weeks with the budget that we gave you? So is there any sort of comparison possible? And that's why I said, like, exporting a still might actually be a thing, just to show the before and after.
That's it. Maybe actually you use it for before and after, or maybe you show this is where we were at crawl phase, and now we're at walk phase, and now things are green in walk phase, or however you use that. We're bringing quite soon a timeline to this.
There you go.
Timeline will be able to look backwards, and you'll be able to.
That is exactly what I was talking about.
But we'll also be able to model forwards. We're changing the name of these tables, or we're changing this custom table to one of the out-of-the-box tables in the next 3 months, and we'll be able to model forwards. And I'll show you a little bit about how we model in the 3D space, and then you'll be able to attach it to times on a timeline to show when you'll do things. But
all right, I'll let you continue then.
Okay. So now I'm going to. We've talked about how easy it is to see where the issues are and what needs to be done, and then we've talked about how you're guided either with the out of the box crawl or on fly, or one you can configure in the preferences. I want to talk a little bit more about communication. So let's assume I have a colleague who owns a business service, or in fact, in the case I'm going to talk about, it will be a colleague who owns a business application. So his name is Tom Hatcher. And Tom Hatcher, who owns a business application, doesn't like talking about CMDB because he doesn't understand it. He finds it complicated. He finds it an opaque business. He doesn't really want to be involved. So what I want to do is bring his CMDB to life for him. So I'm going to look at what is assigned to contains the word Hatcher to get Tom on this. And then that's going to run this against the whole of my CMDB. And we immediately find the business application that Tom is responsible for. It's Enterprise Financial Suite. And let's say maybe I'd have built this out in the background just to show him. Or maybe we already actually had built this, and that would be great. But I could be showing this as a model business application for someone else potentially. But because it has this little symbol here, this family tree symbol, it means it has upstream and or downstream relationships. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to open those up. Now, for my conversation with Tom, I probably don't need to show him the things around enterprise architecture, the business capabilities he's involved with, or the information objects that feed his business application. So I'm just going to get rid of those from my visualization. But I want him to see, hey, Tom, I know you find the CMDB difficult to grapple with. But I want to show you, you have suppliers. You have 5 application services that your business application consumes. And these 5 application services, they depend on 2 applications. And those 2 applications in turn run on 7 servers. And because we have a many-to-many situation, I want to show him that if I hover on one, it will isolate for that one. So I can see this application, Workday, runs on these 3 servers. This application here, SAP, runs on these 4 servers. So Tom, this is your CMDB. And not only is this your CMDB, but you might note that the data's not entirely healthy. We've got red servers here. Yeah. Why are these servers red? Tom, click on them and find out why. So Tom can click on these. It's not complicated. And he can see that the serial number's not complete, the location's not complete. So this is telling Tom, and let's imagine Tom actually wasn't a business application owner, but was a business service owner. This would be telling Tom, look, if there were an issue with one of these servers and it caused an interruption to your service, honestly, I couldn't tell you where it's located.
Because in this data, have the location data.
Maybe somebody knows, but not here. How about, Tom? Number one, this maybe gives you in your mind access to CMDB, to the idea of CMDB. But number two, how about you help me with some resources and we solve these data problems and we get this all green? And then how about I set this up as a view for you? And how about once a week, you and a business analyst take a look and you check that everything's green. And if it isn't green, you click on it and you find out why it's not green. And either you solve that problem or you come and talk to me and we'll help you solve it. So this becomes a way that I can help business service owners, application owners, business application owners, potentially really realistically steward their own data. So if we go back to where we started, to that kind of default view of things that the CMDB owner has, and then I look at what Tom's view needs to be, and I can set it, like I said, as a default for him. So whenever he comes in, he just sees this. Mm-hmm. And in fact, that person who was looking for the technical services that didn't have owners, they just see this. Everyone can have their own view. That's their own CMDB, my CMDB. Okay.
Now I have a little bit of a, I'm a heretic. So question.
Yeah.
I'm having this conversation with Tom, who is, business service owner.
Yeah.
Or, application owner. It doesn't really matter. And he sees, just go back to Tom's view, please. I would like to.
I'm just, I'm showing you now a business service. We'll go back to Tom's view, which is a business.
It actually doesn't matter, right? I'm working with the person who is responsible for the content. And he's like, oh, but hang on a second there, Matt. I'm showing 7 servers here.
Yeah.
But I know it's 8. How do I get the 8th server in there? Is this helping me doing that? Establishing this relationship?
So this isn't actually going to do your discovery. So
no, I know the server is there. It exists. And can I, if the server exists in the CMDB, could I edit here?
Oh, no. So if you know there's a server that one of these runs on, what that's telling us is discovery has missed that relationship.
Exactly.
Or we don't have the relationship in the rel table. So now at the moment, you can't do this in here. This is just for viewing. And we're being a little bit careful about what of ServiceNow's capabilities we replicate in here, because ServiceNow is very good for going into the rel table, choosing the right relationship, or discovering that relationship, etc. So we're being a bit careful. However, as AI tools that can do some of this are starting to come to surface, that really can do the job and don't just talk about doing the job, then we are going to give the ability, because it's a very open platform. We're able to integrate to something and say, right, now go and solve that, do this task. So you could be Now Assist that's skilled for finding relationships between applications and servers. Go and find it and populate it. So we will be bringing that in. At the moment, this just shows. So Tom would be saying, I know it's missing. can we go into ServiceNow and either do the discovery, or I don't know whether it's appropriate and it would match governance to go and do a manual entry of
Yeah,
that.
right.
But whatever the process is, you can go and do it, and Tom would never have known that there were only 7. He knows there are meant to be 8, and he doesn't realize that we're actually only showing 7 until he sees this. This is the first time he gets a view that he can really understand, and he can say, hey, no, you're missing something here. Okay, well, let's correct it then, because maybe we're going to have to show this for DORA or something like that, where it has to be correct.
And it's not only for DORA, it's in general a big deal. And it also shows, and this is something that a lot of people often miss, right? The different personas that actually work here. When you do discovery, you need to have these people on board in a language and in a visual manner that actually connects with them.
Yes.
Because if you come with a table view that looks out of a developer's sandbox, like you are losing any sort of business stakeholder. He's like, what am I supposed to do with that? That doesn't really tell me, even though it might actually tell them the truth about their estate. It doesn't help them understand, and that goes back to what you said earlier, right?
And I've been those guys, right? I've been the non-technical guy often. And I know that not only do you not understand it, but actually you feel a little vulnerable in those conversations, because you're not always that comfortable in a group situation to say, I don't understand anything you're showing me. So actually what happens is those people often just avoid the conversation. Yeah. And that's a terrible way to get things done, having people avoiding conversations.
Especially in a centralized
CMDB. They know they'll be weak. Yeah.
Yeah. No, absolutely. 100%. I agree.
So shall we think a little bit about how we move on from CSDM4, or another problem, which might be, I'm close to CSDM4, but I've got custom tables. I not only do I want to see my CMDB, but I want to see my CSDM as well.
I want to see both of these things. But before we do that, we have a question from the audience, from Andrew. He would like to know the memory requirements for this kind of view, because he needs to display that thing on a on a ThinkPad. So
I think it's highly likely it would work. I can run it on I'll hold up. I run demos on a simple iPad. The memory is not high. What our expertise is in designing 3D visualizations. But the other thing that's real key to what we do is making the visualizations usable on all manner of non-gaming machines. We learned this. We really cut our teeth with Siemens Digital. And Siemens Digital now have 10,000 users of a visualization, not of ServiceNow, but of their own internal software. And they use our visualizations to help them at exhibitions, conference, client meetings, project meetings, all those sorts of things where they need people to understand complex things. And with 10,000 users, we've had a lot of feedback about different types of laptops, memory, all of those things. And so we have a great deal of expertise in making this run light.
That's the tech stack that you mentioned earlier, because I'm pretty sure with Unity, your resource requirements will go through the roof.
On Unity, they were high. This is why
Unity, I have a couple of games on Unity that I used to play, and the resource requirements are insane. And if you put a Unity application on your phone, it actually burns up and drains the battery really fast.
Yeah. No, so that's why we did run on Unity, and we ran successfully on Unity. However, it impacted how the shaders and the light. We couldn't make it look quite as cool because it wouldn't run fast enough. But moving to 3JS, this is one for the visual geeks out there. But if you really want to look at the shadow of this avatar on this platform, or maybe let's look at some of the light and shade on the avatar here, you can see we're really able to do a lot with light and shade in 3JS and still have it run. Those are the kind of trade-offs. And that's why things like 3D visualizations in the past, it's not people didn't have the imagination to do them. It's just they didn't know how to make them run with the resources of the machines they had available at the time. And we no longer have that problem. So, Andrew, the answer is, the best answer is, it can be trialed. You can do a free trial from the store. So you could try this and see how it runs.
Right. So it's a store app. We will get to that a bit later. But I hope, Andrew, that answers your question. If not, feel free to just throw another ball in the direction and we'll pick it up. Let's move on to CSDM for 5, right?
CSDM X, right? Wherever
Whatever.
we're going to go to. So in the backend tables, just as you can configure your crawl, walk, run, fly, you can also configure which tables do you want it to look at and what do you want to call them, etc. And once you've done that piece of work, you then in the front end can go to the edit space. And then now we're editing in 3D. So I can simply decide I want to move that table over there and this one here. And we all of the logic that means that the domain expands with the table is all there. So you can just drag things around. And you could say, I want to make this space here because I want to put 2 or 3 custom tables in here, or I want to change the name of tables, or I want to have networking and I want to have storage and some of those other things that are various in CSDM5. You could even go to the level where you could really redesign the look and feel. You could say, well, I want to have more of a vertical stack. I'm going to move managed technical services up there. And I'm going to move sell consume over here. So now I'm looking at kind of a vertical model. You can move this around to your heart's content. But what I'll do is I'll show you another model that we have built that doesn't only take us to CSDM5, but it takes, we've had a look at the paper that Scott Lem published about 3 weeks ago. So this is now CSDM 5.1. So not only have we changed some of the names of tables and so on, but we've brought in all of the ways of representing AI in your CMDB and how that should be seen in terms of the common service data model. So we see there are 4 new tables here in build and integration. And then there are 4 new tables also in service delivery. And we can see what the relationships are to, etc. So, by the way, if anyone's struggling with how they're going to represent their AI capabilities in their CMDB because they want to use AI control tower effectively, this is the tool for you. Mm. But yeah, so this is kind of showing an example of how we can expand. It's simply expanded, names changed, pointed at other tables, and we've made it CSDM 5.1 compatible. And therefore, when CSDM 6 comes out, we will also make it compatible for that.
Jeez, we're talking 6 already. Time to catch up. So, talking about the different CSDM models, and it's a little bit of a tangent because it takes you away from the actual solution. Have you ever done the data foundation training from ServiceNow?
No, I haven't. So everything I've told you here or talked about in terms of CSDM or CMDB is what I have learned talking with customers with a visualization. Mm. So, and like as I said, 3 years ago, I'd never heard of ServiceNow, never mind a CMDB. I have learned what I've learned by working with visualizations. And probably at some point, I may need to do the data foundations qualification, but I expect not, because I'm not our product manager. I'm not building the product. But like I said, we're very lucky. We're really well supported by Mark Bobman. We have an hour with him every month, and he tells us what's coming, gives us coaching on what we should do next, etc. So we have a great deal of expertise around us. But this is the thing about a 3D visualization. We get the model open on the screen, and Mark points to things, we point to things, we go in deeper, we click, we look. This is how discussions about CMDB and CSDM should be, things that everyone can understand and consume.
And that's kind of the point I'm trying to make, right? For us as the solution people who build these things, obviously the data foundation training is to understand CMDB, CSDM. That is mandatory. One of the key issues that I have figured out over the last year and a half, essentially, is that the way CSDM is embedded into ServiceNow and the CMDB is built up, you would almost expect the customer to have that data foundation training. And let's be absolutely honest here, people, that is not a fun training to do. All right. I have heard people complain about that one for quite a while.
Yeah.
And it's not for everyone. Like the
No.
content is really not for everyone. So if you don't need it for some, certification path or anything like that, having a visualization that helps you understand how these things work together better than a training that is not actually suited for your profile is probably a better option, especially since it actually does seem to help you maintain your estate at the same time, right?
Yeah, and our earliest customers, we are quite early with this still. But our first customers, the first thing they did with this was show their IT boss what the CMDB really could be, what a service level view of their organization could be, and why the CMDB was important. And that boss doesn't need to do Data Foundations course, but for them to, but before that, really, they knew what the letter CMDB stood for, but they didn't actually know anything more than that. And this view gives people, it doesn't make them a mile deep in CMDB knowledge and CSDM knowledge, but
They
it
don't need
helps
to.
them go from a millimeter deep to an inch deep.
Yeah.
And for a lot of roles, an inch deep is just enough. That's what they need to help them. But a millimeter deep is not. They cannot assist in the work or understand what needs to be done at the level that they normally can understand.
Yeah, no, absolutely, 100%. Cool. Let's move on because we are running out of time. So you showed us how you can essentially extend the model, the CSDM model that you did as you did, and how you did that for the CSDM5 with the AI representation, etc. So that is pretty cool. We also saw the MyCMDB views, which I think is a very, very helpful tool, considering the different personas and trying to, because a lot of people feel overwhelmed when they see the CMDB, and just narrowing their focus to what is theirs and making them understand, but here, if we click this number to do one more dimension, that's how you fit into the bigger picture. And that's why it's so important that you take care of your stuff right here.
Yes.
So I think that's a really valuable insight that you can generate with just a handful of clicks.
The MyCSDM thing that is more often needed than 5.1 and AI, like
100%. Yeah.
For a lot of companies, that's a way in the future still, but it's very common that they have custom tables that they need to bring in. So that's
that's what you showed by adding these tables in, right?
You can bring in, when I have a table called Matt's widgets, which should be applications and application services, I can simply bring it into the model, show it next to those tables, and then over time we can see me migrating data into the correct standard out of the box tables and less in my custom table, which then at some point will be able to be deleted from the visualization. So it's a really good way to either show what you have or show what you have as you migrate to something else.
Now I have another heretical question.
Go on.
This is CMDB, and it's very cool. One of the first things that I did with data certification back in the day when it came out, I removed the base table filter to CMDB and widened the focus to all ServiceNow tables. That was a technical geek move, obviously. Could I do that here too?
In this tool, no, because, and it's just really commercial. We have licensed this.
I understand.
For this need, but we are creating tools. So a visualization of IRM, a visualization of incidents, see my incident, see my vulnerability, see my risks.
And I think the letters are actually very valuable, right?
Yeah.
I imagine IRM with this kind of visualization to be a really, really cool thing. But we're digressing. I just wanted to explore the frameworkability of this entire thing.
It's an infinite 3D space. So we will, our ultimate goal is to show the 3D digital twin of the enterprise fed by ServiceNow data. across many modules, so that whatever a person's task is in whatever role, because they of course don't care about modules, they just have jobs to do, and they may want to see a little bit of I don't know, a software asset management view with a little bit of a risk view and in the CSDM model and so on. And those views will be able to be created from the data from the various modules. So people with jobs doing tasks will see what they need to see.
All right. And I have one more. Now, I'm a bit of an AI person, right? That's what I do a lot.
Yeah.
Is there any integration already there or planned with, say, Now Assist, where I could interactively? I brought up this situation where Tom knows there is more stuff, and he knows that there is a relationship that should be existing. Is there anything that you're tying in there with Now Assist that could help us?
Yeah, that's coming very soon. Mark Bodman was on an ITOM course. He was demonstrating last week, I think it was, and I watched him show how he dealt with some duplicates with Now Assist. So this absolutely will integrate to that, and we'll be building that in very soon. I pity the human in the loop, right? When my AI tool says, "Hey Matt, I found 15,000 duplicate CIs. Do you want me to delete the ones that should be deleted?" I imagine I'm going to be saying, "Which? Hang on, don't delete anything. Wait, let me see. What are they? Where do they fit? What services are they a part of? What could be impacted if you delete the wrong ones?" I think the human in the loop is ever more going to be grasping for context, because the human if AI does work out the way people tell us it will, and I'm still not 100% convinced it will, but if it does, the human in the loop is going to be bombarded with questions. Should I do this? Shall I delete that? Shall I add this? Shall I make this decision? Shall I send that communication? Shall I switch this off? Shall I switch this on? And in every case, that human is going to be saying, switch what on? Switch what off? What does it do? Who will it impact? When did it last get switched off? Has it ever been switched off? Context. There's just going to be a vacuum of context. And in a funny way, AI can be a bit like a black box. And so I think the visualization to say, I want to switch this off. This is what it could impact. This is why I think it should be switched off. Here's the data. And to be able to see it and the context of it in a 3D space, I think will be very powerful. So we're absolutely, now we haven't integrated to that yet, because actually when we've said to people, "Oh, are you using that?" For the most part, they've said, "No, we don't use it for that." And we're not building functionality just for futures. We're building functionality when people want it. So when our customers say, "I'm using Now Assist to deal with this thing, this thing, this thing, can you integrate it?" We'll do it. And when we do stuff, when people ask for things, we deliver it in like 3 weeks, 4 weeks. We talk in terms of weeks as an organization.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a bit careful with timelines when it comes to AI in general. There is still certain hesitation in adopting AI. And one of the big reasons for that is actually what we are trying to fix with this, right? If my CMDB is not in a good shape, and I mean fundamentally not in a good shape, then there is duplication is one issue, deduplication with Now Assist, and there's an agentic flow that does CMDB governance, right? And some of this stuff is actually, there is a certain overlap here between these things. However, I do believe that if you fix your CMDB content with this, there is a much better value to get out of your CMDB with any AI capabilities. And I'm not talking AI skills, I'm talking processual stuff, right?
And let's see where it goes, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Knowledge 24, Bill McDermott said, AI is not coming, it's here, get on the bandwagon. Knowledge 25, he said, if you've not running your business on AI, you're behind. Knowledge 26.
I mean, that's marketing at the end of the day.
Knowledge 26 said, we've invented the kill switch. We can kill your AI. What does knowledge 27 say then? If we went from you should have this to we can kill this, I don't know what knowledge 27 and knowledge 28 will say. But in a regulated industry, I'm not 100% sure where AI is going to go.
And it's not only the regulated industry. Let's be absolutely. So I mean, I've been visiting knowledges since I think my first one was 2011,
Okay.
right? And I've been on these events regularly. And in the beginning, it was really like, oh, this is pretty cool, and I can use it right away. AI is not that. Even the bigger customers, they are sure they might have an idea what to do, and but they are very hesitant in actually bringing these capabilities live, because they also need a certain maturity before they draw some value out. And before that, and it's the picture that I told you about in the prep call, right? When I said I saw that on LinkedIn today, it was like an old tractor with a missing wheel and some crumbling foundation, and someone was trying to put on a big I don't know, like a tuning part on the engine that said AI. And this, let's fix the foundation with something like that, make sure that our data is in a good shape, and then we can, I am sure, get very good value out of AI that does a lot of things. And we can also utilize AI to fix the issues behind here.
Yep.
A lot of these, right? Large operations, statistics, and these kind of things. We can use it. That's one of the reasons why I asked for the actual integration here, right? But to think that AI will magically solve all of this stuff, it's a marketing thing. It's not going to do that. So we are really a little bit over time, but it doesn't matter. It's my show, so I'm doing whatever I want. Before I let you go, though, what kind of release cycle do you have? What kind of engagement? How do people get this? You said something about store app.
Yeah, so they can access this on the store. It's called See My CMDB. Our company is called Emma3D. My t-shirt's not very visible, but there you go. That's our logo.
It's there in the upper corner.
Oh, that's right. It's in the upper corner of the screen. That's true. And there, if we're contacted, we can walk you through and guide you through a free trial. So it can be accessed on the store for free. We'll give you our time and help with a trial for free. So typically what happens is a client comes and talks to us. We show them. They say, this would be cool, but I'm not sure it will really work. They download it onto a sub-prod instance. They run it on that. They prove a few things, and then they usually go ahead and want to use it in production. But yeah, it can be absolutely tested before, and that doesn't cost. It costs them some time, but nothing else.
Right. In terms of costs, we don't talk about money here, and I don't want to. My last question is regarding the size. You showed us a table with 90K devices. Scalability is a big topic, right?
We were approached by a large logistics company who asked us if we could run their CMDB and show their CMDB using See My CMDB. And they have 105 million CIs and they have 120 million relationships. And the real issue, as you see here on the screen, we only ever show summaries of things. You rarely see more than about 100 anythings on a screen. However, running the assessments overnight so that every day you have something up to date is another thing. And it just kept crashing trying to run the relationship, the rel table, because it has to see if something should have a relationship or not, and what should it have it to, and does it, etc. So 120 million was a lot, but we took about 5 or 6 iterations. They were very kind. They gave us an architect to work with us on this, and we got it. So we engineered it. So now it can, if you have 120 million relationships, we can run assessments on that overnight. So if someone has more than that, we'd be delighted to talk to them and go through the process and learn how to do more. Most organizations don't have that many, and we can comfortably run overnight, therefore.
120 million is a lot, right?
A lot of relationships.
That's a lot of data in general, not only relationships.
Yeah.
Very cool. Well, Thank you, Matt.
Thank you,
I
Christian.
think we're done here for today. I really enjoyed this. I like this. I like this thing a lot. I mean, having done this for as many years as I did, right? I really like this tool a lot. I think it can help sort out certain issues that I am seeing with some of my customers as well. So maybe this was not the last time we talked. Let's see. Again, I really like what you did here. It's taking a completely different approach, and sometimes that's what we need.
Yeah, thank you for your time. I really appreciate any of you guys who have watched this or listened to me. I know that in your working day, your time is valuable. So
Yeah.
I appreciate you giving us some time to look at this.
All right. Time to end it here. Thank you very much, Matt, for joining, for your time, and for the prep work. It was not all roses and sunshine. Thanks everyone who tuned in. And with that, see you next week, hopefully, where we will be talking about potentially doing some greenfield operations. So with that, have a very nice day, and I see you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye bye.